Let's talk about what's buzzing: Willam in Alaska versus Acid Betty and the paper dress fiasco. So this all started when Willam in Alaska brought on Chakra LA, a popular designer that helped Acid Betty design and create a dress for Drag Race All Star Season 10. Chakra went on the Race Chaser podcast on the Mom Network, of course, ran and produced by Willem in Alaska, made some very harsh allegations that Acid Betty did not fully pay for the dress that he helped create for her for episode 9 of All Stars 10, the paper dress. After this episode, there was a lot of backlash for Acid Betty. Of course, people were trying to hold her accountable for not paying for the dress, and I feel like a lot of people that have been creating the backlash for Acid Ready did not fully watch the episode. The episode has since been deleted from the Mom YouTube channel, but it is still on Spotify if you guys want to go listen to what he had to say. But the designer Chakra does state that Acid Betty did pay $2,500 for the dress, but did not pay the additional fees. So this is where then Acid Betty went on her podcast, The Petty Betties with Daya, and basically exposed the whole situation. So come to find out that yes, the 2,500 was the original price that was agreed upon at the beginning, but then Chakra, the designer, added an extra $1,000, $500 for him needing to hire a person to finish the dress because he couldn't finish it on time, even though Acid did give him over a month and a half to complete the dress. And if you look at the text threads that Acid Betty shared, you can clearly tell that the designer had a month to complete the dress, but he only started sending progress photos at the end, almost the week that she had to be in LA to go on Drag Race. So I do feel like those $500 that he wanted to charge her for the additional person that he hired to finish the dress for him was not Acid's fault. The other $500 that he added again was because he wasn't trying to use a specific material that Acid Betty requested from the beginning. And in the podcast with Alaska and Willem, he clearly says that he did not want to use that material from the beginning, so he was avoiding trying to give her what she wanted.
Ultimately, I had to go and buy, those backdrop rolls of paper that you use for
Yeah,
photo shoots.
from like
I,
Sammy's camera.
yeah, but I was avoiding buying those because she wanted like all the different colors of the flame, and they're like almost $100 a roll. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they are.
I'm like, Betty, I don't. I was trying to get away with just getting like paper from Michaels.
But at the end of the day, how to use it, because Acid Betty has worked with paper and used to create paper jewelry, so she knew what paper was going to work the best, so she recommended it to him. And at the end of the day, he had to go and buy more materials, which is another $500 that he wanted to charge her. One thing that the designer did not mention also is that the dress that he delivered to Acid Betty was not what Acid Betty had asked for. In her podcast, she literally goes into detail, literally telling the designer how the flame should be moving and how to even bend them or how to work with the paper. And at the end of the day, Acid Betty did not get what she wanted, so she had to work on the dress at her hotel room during Drag Race filming to complete the dress to make sure that she got specifically what she wanted. Then, after Acid Betty posted this podcast, she literally went on a Twitter rant. She was exposing Willem, saying this: Mistress Isabel Brooks told the tea on Willem. Everything she said about that cloud chaser was true. So good. And the Alaska staying silent is liberal gold. Then Diabetes, her sister, also took to Instagram and said this: Is there a reason Willem and Alaska haven't reached out to Acid Betty yet? Where is the apology, let alone a simple conversation in general? They were so quick to have Chakra on their podcast to discuss his side of this paper dress, in which he made and didn't get paid for, which was manufactured to make him look like a victim, which in return caused my sister to get tons of unnecessary hate and trolling comments. Now that Acid Betty has shared her side of the story on the Petty Betty podcast, it's been silence from them. Seems like they are just feeding into the drama at others' expense. Do better, practice what you preach. Then, in response, Willem and Alaska did address it on their channel, but they did not apologize. All they did was extend an invitation to Acid Betty to come on the podcast and talk about the situation if she wanted to. But that is not what Acid Betty wanted. Acid Betty has been wanting an apology from them, a public apology, because they were so quick to share all this misinformation, of course, without knowing. But after realizing their mistake, they should have apologized from the beginning. So I guess after this, Alaska and Willam were getting a lot of hate comments and a lot of backlash for not apologizing and not being holding themselves accountable for what happened. The following week, Alaska and Willam finally did a podcast and Alaska apologized for the situation. She took accountability for it and Willam didn't say I'm sorry. He did say that it was wrong for him to insert himself in this situation, and he also revealed that Chakra was the person that reached out to them for help. Basically, Chakra was the one that wanted to put this out there. So, of course, Alaska and Willam, being a friend of his, he reached out to Alaska and Willam and he asked them to be on his podcast to put that information out there. And the other thing also is that Alaska and Willam did say that they reached out to Acid Betty to come on the podcast as well to basically just have a hashing of the situation with Chakra on their podcast. But I guess Acid Betty said that nobody reached out to her, but they said that they had a producer reach out to Acid Betty, so maybe that's why she didn't think that it was from Willam in Alaska. Acid was expecting a conversation or for Willam in Alaska to reach out to them specifically. So at this point, the situation has been resolved. After Betty got the public apologies that she wanted to, Alaska and Willam apologized as well and just kind of said, hey, we're just not going to get involved in problems that are not ours. But I did wanted to make this because I have seen a lot of misinformation of people thinking that Acid Betty didn't pay for the dress at all. But of course, Acid Betty did pay for the dress and what was agreed upon at the beginning. The additional charges, she didn't think that were her fault. So she did not pay for the extra $1,000 that Chakra was asking. But of course, let me know what you think of this whole situation in the comments and we'll talk soon.